We need people, if you're looking to grow in your own organization, people who are going to speak for you in the rooms when you're not there. And in order for them to do that, they need to know you. And so there is an element of networking that is so important. And I think people need to think about how you strategically network, meaning who makes the decisions about people in your organization, and make sure that those people know who you are, what you're working on, and how great you are.
Hello, and welcome to the Influence and Growth Mastery Podcast, where high-performing CEOs and entrepreneurs learn to scale smarter. I'm Tanya Gossage, founder of Gossage Consulting and the Power Connectors. Right here, every week, you're going to discover the real strategies in referral marketing, authority building, and AI-powered automation to help you attract high-ticket leads and grow through smart connections, not cold outreach. Hello, the guest that I have with me today has gone from engineer to executive. Camille Batiste on owning your space, leading with vision, and growing through the hard. Most leaders today talk about resilience. Camille lives it through every supply chain disruption, leadership interaction, and career pivot. From rising the ranks at Honeywell to transforming global procurement as a senior vice president at Archer Daniels Midland, which we'll call ADM, Camille didn't just lead teams. She's changed how leadership feels for women, for engineers, and for anyone told to stay in their lane. Today, she leads the Blackman Grant Group, consulting for small businesses and coaching rising leaders to own their voice, elevate their strategy, and build a career without burnout. Today, in our conversation, Camille is going to break down how she demonstrates executive presence in male-dominated rooms. I love that. How she's used her Six Sigma roots to lead a multi-billion-dollar transformation, and why her framework of show up, speak up, and level up is a non-negotiable mantra for leaders who want to grow without playing small. Camille, I could not be any more excited today than to have you on my show. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Tanya. I'm excited to be here. It's so great to see you again.
Well, thank you. I'm elated that you're here. So before we really get into some juicy meat today, I want you to take us back to your early days as a chemical engineer and what drew you to that world.
Well, thank you. I actually go all the way back to just growing up in Jamaica as a young student. And I was blessed with, great intellectual talents. I just always did really well in school. And even the choice of engineering, I don't know that I chose engineering because I loved it. I chose engineering because I could. And I came from a traditional West Indian background, very similar to actually people from India, where there are really only three acceptable choices when you think about career. There is doctor, lawyer, and engineer. That was it. And I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be a lawyer. So engineer it was. But I did love the challenge, the academic rigor of engineering. So that's why I chose it. And one of the things that one story that I tell people, I just grew up as a STEM student all the way through. And at the same time, I loved French. And so there was a choice I had to make once in high school where I had to decide at the advanced level, do I want to take physics or do I want to take French? And I remember while I knew I was going to be an engineer, I could just put off physics for a while. And so my headmaster said, Camille, I know you want to do physics and French, but those two classes conflict. Which one are you going to pick? I remember the first choice. I felt like that was my first opportunity for agency. And I said, Sir, I pick French. And he gave me this look like, are you crazy? Right? I tell you, I had a great time. I just tell one story that we would be sitting on the lawn, reading French books with our cute French exchange students while all my friends are in physics lab. So, I feel like I was kind of good. Even though I am an engineer, I always
Mm.
consider myself an engineer with a personality, an engineer with a bit of
Hmm.
arts, engineer with a bit of flair. So yes, I chose engineering, but I think I'm always wanting to be more than just an engineer.
That's awesome. I love that. You wanted to go this way, but then you chose to go this way. Actually, it kind of reminds me of my career, growing up in corporate banking just a little bit. So, what mindset carried you really from that technical execution into
Mhm.
the execution leadership piece?
So going through school, I always had this connection with you have to be excellent in academics, right? You have to know all the technical details of whatever it is. And for me, that was chemical engineering. And as I went into my career, that's how I went in. I know engineering. I know how distillation columns work, and I know how to calculate flow rates and material balances. And that's what I'm going to do my entire career. But I started to observe how decisions were made and how people were selected for the good opportunities or the travel or the great projects. And 9 times out of 10, it wasn't the smartest person in the room that was selected. And it wasn't the hardest worker in the room that was selected. It was a person that was doing some other things. And so I started to be an observer of people and what were those people doing differently that was giving them a perception of these are going to be the future leaders of the company. And what I saw was that they were out there, they were communicating with people, they were having conversations at all levels of the organization. They were attending events outside of work that I felt like I didn't have time to do because I was working hard. And I realized, wait, that's the job. That's
Mhm.
part of the job. Yeah, they were delivering. They weren't necessarily going to the level of detail that I was working at, but they recognized that there was another element of the job
Mhm.
that was required if they wanted to progress into leadership roles. I started to be a student of those people and realize that I needed to change my mindset if I wanted to be a leader. So at first I didn't. At first I had zero aspiration to be a leader. I was just going to be technical. But as I saw that that's where you can have more influence in the organization and I felt like I did have something to contribute, then I realized that I needed to follow what those people were doing.
What you said just really hit home. In fact, I wrote down and I want to bring this out to the audience because speaking of mindset, you said talking about observing other people and what they did, what they were doing differently than what other people were doing. Those are the ones who probably were maybe not necessarily more successful, but successful quicker. They were doing events. They were reaching another element. You realized you needed to change, or there was something more that you needed to do.
Mhm.
Mindset is so huge. Those are some of the things that, if we could only realize to mimic the things that successful people do, watch and notice, observe. You use that word observe. Observe what other people are doing and then do and mimic the things that they are doing.
Mhm.
I talk about that often. So I had to
Yeah.
bring that out. So Archer Daniels Midland, you redefined procurement. What did it take to build that strategic function?
Mhm. I love the opportunity to move to ADM to lead procurement because when I moved into ADM, I had 16 years of procurement experience at Honeywell in two different business units. And I really feel like Honeywell is excellent when it comes to procurement. I mean, I can't speak for today, but certainly when I was there in 2016, 2017, we had the processes in place, we had the connections in place, we understood how to leverage the broadest part of Honeywell to the market. And so there's really wasn't a whole lot more to learn. I was a part of developing the strategy at Honeywell and the vision at Honeywell, but I was actually implementing somebody else's vision. And we learned a lot of lessons along the way. And so the opportunity then to move to ADM that had a procurement organization and had people who were excited about what could be new and different. They just didn't know how to do it. That I could bring all those lessons, the 16 years at Honeywell, bring those lessons to bear in ADM. And so what we did is, because I had people who were excited about what could be at ADM, I brought the well, how. So we talked about, we actually did establish a vision of what it is it that we want to be. How do we want to be perceived within the organization? And what value do we think we can bring? And then we did an analysis of where are we today? And certainly for every single one of the areas that we wanted to be excellent, we were not, and that's fine. But we started to establish on what will we need to put in place to make that happen. So, but it was first starting with, and you mentioned mindset earlier, expanding our mindset of the value that we really could create within procurement at ADM. The second element that was also crucial for me, and it was fortunate that we actually invested in some third-party help to accelerate the value. So we went outside and we got help and we participated in a transformation that the company was doing anyway. And that third party helped to create the message. So while we could tell the story about why this was important for us, it was really nice to have somebody else come in and say, hey, did you know that your procurement organization, with the right investment and the right resources, can deliver 3 times what you think it can? I shared the message, but it was so much more powerful from somebody else coming in. So we leaned into the third party support. Sometimes people kind of want to pull back a little bit. We thought it was important to lean in because I think they helped us move the needle a whole lot faster than we would have on our own. So establishing the vision, the mindset of what can be, and then getting help and asking for help, not being afraid to ask for help. Those are the 2 things that were critical for our transformation.
So I want to ask you, Camille, because I'm just very curious. I want to talk about, were there things that you had to unlearn to lead differently, at a different level? But also, did you find when you came in and you brought those, was it 16? Is that how many you said? 16 different
years.
Yeah, 16 years of experience. And then you brought all of these different things that you wanted to implement. Did you hit a roadblock with people not wanting to have a different mindset, not wanting to change? And if I'm getting into something too early here, tell me, we'll address that here in just a little bit. But, I'm just curious because I know sometimes people are just like, oh, here comes somebody else, and they have their way, they have their thoughts and, their mindset. But what did you have to unlearn? And then how did people react to that?
Yeah. I'll answer the 2 separate questions. I'll answer the unlearn question first and then the roadblock question second. So on unlearning, I mentioned earlier that when I started my career, it was all about execution, right? It's individual contribution, it's hard work, it's showing results. Yeah. And the pivot that I had to make at ADM, leading a procurement organization, is as the leader of the organization, I had to stop doing. Mm-hmm. And so even though I was the leader of procurement, I had to get out of the procurement business. Mm-hmm. The team, I had to enable the team with the resources for them to be successful. Mm-hmm. My job was to market what they're doing and to advocate for them, certainly to break roadblocks if they're having an issue with a particular negotiation. Yes, I'd get involved, but at a very, very high level, right? I wasn't getting into the nitty-gritty, but I spent my time in sharing with the organization, here's what the team is doing. Here's how we need your engagement so they can be more effective for you. And here are the resources that we need. We need systems. We need processes. We need policies. We need people to follow the policies. We need ramifications if they don't. And you can't do that by yourself. And so I spent most of my time with other leaders in the organization, garnering support so that they can help us, so that we can help them. So, as leaders, it's so important that we recognize that the job changes as you go up the ladder. And you need to be, you're removed farther and farther from the actual work of procurement in my case, because the role is something else. The role is about enabling people, it's developing people, it's coaching, it's marketing, and it's enabling. And so that's what I had to unlearn. And so today I think it's interesting because people reach out to me because they want expertise. And somebody will call me and say, hey, do you have expertise in the flavors markets or expertise in the animal nutrition market? And the truth is, I don't. I don't at all, because there was somebody in my organization who was the expert, and it was not me. And it was never appropriate for me to be that expert. It was appropriate for me to enable the organization. So that's how I had to learn to lead differently.
Right. And so I'm sorry, let me add just one thing before you go forward. You are also not only working with a team, you were having to change other people and the way they think and work.
Yeah. And it's about telling those stories, right? So when people think, and procurement's tough. Every organization, procurement people complain, oh, nobody understands what we do, and we're always the spend police, and we can create more value, but nobody cares. True. all those things can be true. So my job then was to tell the stories, right? Gosh, we had this negotiation for this product that we were spending $100 per unit. And did you know that we went out and we did the sourcing event and we found a brand new supplier, and now we're paying $75. And sharing that there is value here.
Right.
Or sometimes it's, did you know that you're buying 100 of something and they're going to waste, and there are things that you can do differently so that you only buy, a 50 of something.
Right.
But if people don't hear that, all they hear is the no, you can't do that. No, you can't use that supplier. Nobody wants that.
We're cutting this out. We're cutting this out. We're cutting this out because it's too expensive. Yeah.
Exactly. But showing where we have the value. And then one other area that we found very effective is to get other leaders to tell the story for us. Just like we had the third-party people telling the story, we had leaders where if we completed a project for somebody, we wanted them to tell the story.
That's awesome.
Because they're just much more credible. As credible as we are, it's much more credible to have your stakeholder, your customer, talk to other people about the value that they're getting.
Right. Well, and two, it's important for when you're telling the story, you have to believe the story, and not having a leader who disagrees, trying to convince their team that they believe the story when they don't, because it comes across, I remember so many times being told to tell a team something when the person who told us didn't believe it. And then that comes down to us, and then we have to share it, and we're not in full buy-in because we didn't get the full buy-in. It makes a difference if you believe it. And so if you believe it, then you can tell it with full confidence, and you can own it, and you can say, look, team, this is why. And I believe it, and I believe that they made the right decision.
And even adding, and this is the right decision because, and having a personal reason that why you support it, and encouraging other people to have their personal reason as well.
Well, it not only, I believe it's the right reason because it not only impacts the company, it impacts our department, which then impact our clients, and it goes all the way down. There's a trickle effect. Yeah, it's important. For sure. So let's talk about moments. I know you and I have had previous conversations, and we've kind of talked about moments where you didn't feel seen. What helped you shift into such a presence and power in your role? I love that when it happens, by the way.
I think for me, I don't know that I had a conscious shift. I think my shift took place over time.
Oh,
And
that's
it
good.
came through not my own confidence, but the confidence that
Others placed in you.
leaders, my leaders had in me.
Yeah.
So they saw something in me that I didn't see, and they began to affirm me. So I was surprised early in career. I was surprised when someone would say, "Oh, Camille's really good at this," or "Camille had a really good point in this thing," or "Camille has really good ideas." And I'm kind of going, "Camille, who?" could, could that be me? Are you serious? And so I did find that there were leaders in my life, and I'll tell you, of all the leaders I've had, most of them have been phenomenal supporters of Camille. And so I've been very fortunate where that is concerned, because that's what started to build my confidence, when other people would see something in me, and then I would kind of go, "Oh, I guess I do have a good point." Or I guess I do, carry myself a certain way that is noticed. And I was actually trained as a teenager. I was tall, so my mom sent me to modeling school. So
Oh,
I know how to walk.
cool. Yeah.
But I actually learned there's a lot there, and just in diction and
Yes.
how you express yourself and how you walk into a room,
Mhm.
that I learned then. But so that was noticed, and as it was noticed, and I started to feed that. So, but I would tell you, it came from others. And there's one event where it was life changing for me. We had just done an acquisition of a company, and we were touring all of their locations and working on integration work to get the companies working within the Honeywell framework. And I spent quite a bit of time with one of the managers from the acquired company. And one evening I was in my office, and he saw I in my office, and he just stuck his head in and said, "Camille, I just want to tell you, it's been a pleasure working with you. And I just see just leadership qualities in you. And I see you as a vice president in our company one day."
Wow.
And at the time, I was a manager, very happy at the manager level, thinking that's what I'm going to be doing the rest of my career. And at the time, I kind of said, "Really?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, absolutely." And that was really the first time that I even considered executive levels. At the time, if a VP came to visit, we were cleaning up the offices and preparing for them, and just never thought that that was something that I would consider at all. But he planted that seed, and it started to become a reality. Meaning, again, you mentioned mindset.
Mhm.
My mindset shifted to, this is possible, and why not me? What is it? What am I missing that this is not a possibility for me?
Mhm.
And so I started then to be open to new opportunities that I might not have been open to before. And sure enough, I didn't do the math, maybe within 5 years or 6 years of that conversation, I actually did take my first vice president role. And he was the first person I thought of when I did, and by then he had retired, but made a phone call to him to thank him, because he's the one that made it possible for me, just by sharing that insight. He didn't have to. He could have kept it to himself, but he shared it with me, and that was life changing.
That's amazing. Do you think that moment, it sounds like, set the trajectory for you in your mind that this is possible, it's going to happen? Do you think you started working mentally and probably physically towards that position once that happened in your mind?
Yeah. I don't know necessarily that I thought I want to be a vice president, right? Maybe a senior director would do, or maybe even beyond. I think I started to carry myself differently. I
Yes.
started to act differently. I started to act like a vice president,
Yes.
carry myself that way, dig into the business side of questions that we had,
Mhm.
not so much focused on, okay, what is this, what carry the decimal point, but why? Why are we making this decision?
Mhm.
Why is this important? Explaining it to my team in a way that they understand. It was a shift in thinking like an enterprise leader. That was
Mhm.
the shift. Not so much at okay, now I need to find the position, but it's almost like behaving like the thing that you want before you were there.
That's what I was trying to convey.
Mm-mm.
because, whenever I was working towards those moves myself, I had a leader who said to me, write it down, look at it every day, visualize yourself there, walk the part, talk the part, act the part, literally seeing yourself there. And so I
Mhm.
did what you just talked about a while ago when it was coming back to the observe. I started observing other leaders, and I would watch them and I would be like, what are they doing different than other leaders who are not? What
Mhm.
are the differences between the managers and the supervisors, the vice presidents versus the senior vice presidents and the executive vice presidents? I was trying to observe every little thing.
Mhm.
And then I remember dressing differently, and I remember talking differently, and just trying to pick up on the tidbits of things, and just not, like you say, going and applying for positions because I didn't feel like I was physically there yet or mentally there yet.
Mhm.
But it was like taking those baby steps to get there. So
Yeah.
I wondered, because I have conversations with people in my groups today and then one on one. I'm like, you are fully capable. You are fully capable. Start working towards progression in those
Mhm.
ways. But sometimes they don't see themselves there yet. And I'm like, your genius is there. And so sometimes giving them prompts for chat gpt or whatever to actually start
Mhm.
doing the work and have them talking to chat gpt to pull that data out. So
Mhm.
what advice would you give leaders who feel invisible despite some of the results that they get today?
Well, one of them is to find people who are going to tell you the truth.
Yeah. So
And
good. So good.
and that's the because it's the positive. You need the encouragement, but you also need there are things that you need to work on.
Hmm.
We need people who are going to tell you, and that is really it's more difficult than we think. Giving tough feedback is hard, and a lot of people, even managers, sometimes avoid giving it. So seeking tough feedback. I will tell you, most of my career, I did not get that. And I think that even though
Really?
leaders were trying to help me, I think they did me a disservice. I had to create my own negative feedback, meaning I had to sort of reflect on myself
Wow.
and see what went well, what didn't go well, what could I change. And I think people were maybe trying to not hurt my feelings, but
Mm.
in a way it didn't help. And so asking for what is there anything I could have done better in that conversation? Is there anything I could have done better in that presentation or whatever the work is? So seeking feedback. The second advice I would give leaders is or people who feel invisible is to set an aspiration for yourself and to really take a step back from the day to day and from the noise and just think about we have one life. How do you want to live this life? How do you want to end this life? And to think as big as you can. And we realize, even as I think big, but I could think bigger, right? To think
Mhm.
as big as you can of what it is. What do you really want? Because sometimes we think we get a do over. We think we do. Oh, yeah, well, I'll just do this for the next 20 years. And I was 20 years. That's like, it's 20% of a long lifetime, right? That's a long
Right.
time. I mean, a long time. So to really think about what is it we want and then really find the resources, the people that are going to help you get there. No one gets to a leadership position, especially in large companies, alone. You do have a core of advisors. You need peers who are going to tell you the truth and give you feedback. You need leaders who are going to tell you the truth and give you feedback. You need mentors in your court who are going to tell you the truth and give you feedback. We haven't talked about sponsors. We need people, if you're looking to grow in your own organization, people who are going to speak for you in the rooms when you're not there. And in order for them to do that, they need to know you. And so there is an element of networking that is so important. And I think people need to think about how you strategically network, meaning who makes the decisions about people in your organization and make sure that those people know who you are, what you're working on, and how great you are. So it is extra work now.
Yeah.
It is, it's above and beyond what you do on a daily basis. But if you really want to be seen, it's important that you're putting yourself out there. Leaders are visible. So it does mean showing up. And I know in this world where we're doing a lot of remote work and hybrid work, et cetera, it's great to get work done. It's
Mhm.
not so great to develop as a leader because
Yeah.
leaders need to be in the room. And so there's some I'm of the opinion that you need to be in the room if you want to develop the relationship. That's what it is, right? You're building relationships, and relationships are built face to face. So, in investing in that time so that you're getting great relationships, so you can get the positive feedback and the constructive feedback, so you can be better.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I want you to talk about your framework here in just a minute, but before I do, I want to ask you, what are some of the biggest mindset shifts that you help emerging leaders make today? And you went, I know, let me back up just a minute.
Mhm.
So you launched the Blackman Grant Group, and within doing all of that, you help leaders definitely in the mindset work.
Mhm.
And with doing all of that mindset work, what are some of the shifts that in your programs today that you help leaders shift in their mindset? I know
Yeah.
I know that there's got to be some phenomenal shifts that you're helping people through.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I want to get to those because I want to move into, before we run out of time today, I want you to talk about, because you and I had a wonderful conversation, about your framework. And I do
Yeah.
not want to miss that framework. So if you'll talk about that, then I want to move straight on into your framework. Can you
Okay.
share that?
And maybe we combine the two, Tanya. So
Okay,
when I
let's
think
do
about
that. Let's do
the
that.
mindset shifts, and I talked about it earlier, where we talked about execution, we talked about developing as a leader. So I think about there's 5 steps, and these are lessons that I've learned over my 30-year career in how to develop as a leader. And it's not about necessarily how to lead. I feel like there's tons of information out there about how to lead, and they're all good, but there's
Yes.
not a lot of information to tell you how to get there. Okay,
Yes,
once you're
that's
there, it's
true.
okay. It's like wealth management. If you have a lot of money, all the people are coming to help you manage your money,
Yes.
but no one's telling you how to get there. So I want to tell you how to get there. So I think about it in 5 steps. The first 2 are around execution and delivery, and
Mhm.
the second 3 are around becoming a leader. The first 2, grow up.
Yes.
And what grow up means is it is a mindset shift, actually. It's from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. We think about Carol Dweck's book on mindset. And so it's going through the hard things. There
Yeah.
will be difficult times, whether it's in school or in your career. For me, it was college. I went to a very rigorous program. I decided to choose the hardest major in the whole school and do a double. I don't know what I was thinking. And it was very difficult, but I had to get over myself because when I
Yeah.
was in the class and it was too hard, I didn't know what it was like to be in a hard class until then. And so I had to think from a growth mindset that I had to put effort forward, and effort will always be required at all levels of your career. So first step is to grow up. The second step is to step up. And it means taking those responsibilities, those projects, those challenges, and delivering results. So it's important that whatever you do in your career at every level, from the CEO to the person who cleans the floors, we need to deliver results. That doesn't change. It's
Absolutely.
not results or, it's results and, right? So those first 2 necessary for success, but not sufficient. I think I had those 2 down when I was early in my career, but those things are not the things that got me promoted. The next couple do. Number 3 is to show up. And that means showing up in the room, being visible so that leaders see you and think of you when they're thinking about who can take on the really great opportunities. That's what I observed when I was looking at other people that were getting ahead early in my career. It also means how you show up. It is about your dress, and every company is different, and what's appropriate in one is not appropriate in another. So understand what's acceptable in your environment, but ensure that you look like the role that you want to have. And so that's important. Showing up with the posture, the body language. And I talk about, thinking about just showing up with presence. And there's just a small little exercise that I do where I can just, if I put my shoulders up and my head down, this is not a leader. If I put my shoulders down, my head up, just by that one small change, not only do I look different, I feel different. I actually feel more confident because of my body posture. So showing up is so important. And then following very closely to showing up is speaking up. We are brought into our organizations for our perspective, for our opinions. And when we stay quiet, we're doing the company a disservice. Absolutely. We're actually not doing our job when we stay quiet. And if I think about all the leadership skills that I think are so important, and we can name all thousands of them, however you define leadership, communication, the fact that we communicate, how we communicate with clarity and simplicity, that's how you get things done through people. That's how you're recognized as a leader. And obviously that's how you lead once you get there. So speaking up is number 4. And then number 5 is a level up. And whatever role you have, it's always important to be preparing for the next one. And that means understanding who makes the leadership decisions. It means maybe there's some studying to do if you don't know business language, understanding business language, really understanding what it would take so that you start behaving like somebody's in that role before you're in the role. And at the same time, you're developing your team. You're developing your successor or successors so that you'll be able to move up into the next role. So I put all those 5 together: grow up, step up, show up, speak up, and level up to get to those roles that we need, the roles that are leadership roles in the organizations. That's the framework. And it really is a mindset shift. And it's a mindset shift that I had to go through in my own career.
Absolutely. I absolutely love it. I think it would be appropriate if, and I'm throwing you a curve right now. Is there and you can even use yourself, but I think of a case study, Camille, where you've been able to and you don't have to mention names, but taking somebody through this framework, and because we all have our frameworks, but I absolutely, when you and I talked about this, I absolutely loved it. And I can't remember them in the same order that you do because you go through them so fast, but I love it. But talk about, when you're coaching somebody, how this all flows, and then you package that up in such a great package, because you and I talk about some of the same things. And I think that our growth trajectory has been very similar, totally different businesses, but has happened very similar. But you want to share a story? Does something come to mind?
There's 2 things that are coming to mind. So when I started, a year ago, we kicked off a pilot program where I essentially took a group of 12 individuals through the entire process. So we would meet once a month and we would discuss each of these topics going through. So, we talked about individual habits and personal disciplines. And then we talked about communication. We talked about image and all the things that I talked about, but in each of these sessions. And what the feedback that I got was that there were a lot of ahas. And for the most part, the group that I had, and even in my individual coaching clients, most people have the first 2 down. By the time they get to me, they've got, they're doing the hard work, they're delivering results, and they're in that mode where they're not being seen, or somehow they're being overlooked. When we think about leadership material, they're not the ones that are selected. So the first 2, I think people have. The ahas come around understanding how decisions are made in the organization and who needs to know you so that you can be considered. So that's typically where I find that I'm helping people think through when you think about your organization, like who is your boss? Who is your boss's boss? Who are the peers of your boss? Because when you think about the room, those are the people that are in the room. And I said the worst thing that can happen to you is if your boss is in the room and says, hey, I think Camille would be great for that fabulous assignment in Dubai. And what you don't want to have happen is someone in the room say, who's Camille? It's almost better for somebody to say, I don't like Camille, than to say, we don't know who that is, because you will not have that great opportunity or that great promotion if the people who make the decisions don't even know who you are. So that actually is where I spend time with people so they understand in their own organization who those people are and establish a strategy to ensure that they have face time with the decision makers.
So important to get known in your own company. So important. So important. So I'm going to throw a scenario out to you.
Okay.
Let's say that there's an individual, Camille, that has been with a company for 9 years. They feel they have been overlooked for promotion after promotion after promotion, and they cannot figure out why they're not getting chosen. Would you be the perfect coach for them?
That's a tough question. I think a lot of coaches would be the perfect coach for them, to be honest. But yes, yeah, I think that it's an awareness, right? You talked about mindset earlier, but it's an awareness of what's really happening around me.
I think there's a difference between your type of coaching and other coaches. I think there's people like you, there's people like myself, and I'm not necessarily doing that type of coaching anymore. But there's people that have been through the stages. They have the mindset, but they've been through the stages and know what it takes to be promoted. They know how leaders think. They know what leaders are looking for. They know what leaders want as an employee. These are things that I tell people when I am having those conversations is you need to find somebody that's been through the process. You need to have conversations with people that have had close relationships with human resource departments. You need to have someone coaching you that have been throughout the company or at least have been in the boardroom, having conversations and know how the organization works internally, because those are the type of people that are going to know how to give you the best type of coaching. And I feel like someone that has been through the ropes, like you've been through the ropes, would be the best type of coach that can get someone from point A to M to Z, to get them through the stages of where they want to be. And it may not be that they can go from where they are today in A and get all the way to a vice president or an executive vice president. I went through many iterations of promotions before I got to director and executive vice president. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. It took me 34 years to get there. And so, but with what happened with you and then working with other people and teaching them and working with them and helping with the mindset, to me, that's what it takes. And so as you were going through this, I thought I probably work with people and will continue to work with people that you would be an ideal type coach that I could refer to in the future, for all types of people in roles that want to be promoted.
I do like what you said, because it's really it's like parenting, right? You want to when you have a parenting challenge, you want to talk to somebody who's done it, right? Whether it's your own parents or you have teenage issues, you want somebody who's been through the teenage years, not somebody who has a 2-year-old, right? And you're right. So somebody who's gone through that whole process, experienced it from both sides, from going through it, and then turning around and making decisions about about leaders, about promotions of other people in the organization. It's a perspective, you're right, it's a perspective that I
Mhm.
have that not a lot of coaches have because they haven't been in the
Right.
roles. They haven't
Right.
been in those rooms. That's good. And you're even helping me here because you're giving me, giving me some coaching, Tanya. So I appreciate that.
That's funny. I have helped people in the past to say, you need to remove this from your resume because this is not what a boss wants to see on their resume. That's very negative, or that's, or when you go, I've coached them about when they go to the interview, these are the types of things that you need to say when you go into the
Mhm.
interview, because this is what a boss is looking for. So, and then this is what your human resources department is looking for,
Yes. Yes.
so yeah, it's just being on both sides. But I don't do that type. I've done it for some friends and close
Mhm.
relatives, but I don't do that type of coaching. And so, but I always want to send them to somebody that's been through those types of
Mhm.
things, because I think that's where they're going to get their best type of coaching. But somebody that's not been through it, I just don't think they're going to get them to their end goal like somebody that
Mhm.
has been through it would. Kind of like
Mhm.
playing, I guess, the game of basketball. You can't coach basketball if you've not ever played basketball.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but yeah, this has been so good. So, for those of you whom are listening, whether you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to it on your favorite audio channel, if you have resonated with Camille's story, and you are a leader who's trying to grow without losing yourself in the process, which so many do, so many get frustrated, so many get burnt out, so many want to quit, you need to pull up her website and take a look at it at Camille. Pronounce your last name for me again. Batiste?
Batiste.
Batiste.
Camille Batiste.
Yes. CamilleBatiste.com. Look her up. Also look her up on LinkedIn. Her profile's there. And she has just joined, for those of you who are my followers on Alignable, she has just joined Alignable as well. And Camille has a free book titled The 5 Reasons You Aren't Getting Promoted: Unleash Your Potential and Transform Your Career. And Camille, tell them how they can get a copy of that.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tanya. So it's on the website. There's a link there that you can just click on. Download my free ebook, and you will be asked for your name and email. When you download the free book, you'll also be added to our email list. And I send out a blog maybe once every couple of weeks or so on what's going on, or insights that I have, or even just musings about all things leadership and career. So you'll get access to that also when you download the ebook.
Yeah. And I tell you what, Camille, we'll just go ahead and add that link to your ebook in the show notes. We'll do that just to make it easy for everyone to get to the ebook. And if you've not already subscribed to the podcast, please go ahead and do so. And with that, that's all I have for you today. So until next time, have a great week, and we'll see you again next week. And thank you for joining and tuning in today. Talk to you soon. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to the Influence and Growth Mastery podcast. If you're ready to attract high-ticket leads, scale with AI, and grow through powerful referral networks, visit my website, gossageconsulting.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with any CEO who is ready to simplify, scale, and succeed without the burnout. Until next time, stay influential and keep building smart connections that drive the real growth. See you soon.